The morning sun cast long shadows across Windsor Castle as Princess Catherine quietly slipped out of the main residence at dawn. Her security detail followed at a respectful distance as she made her way to the private gardens, seeking a moment of peace before the weekend's official engagements began. The previous week had been particularly challenging, with 3 royal tours, countless charity visits, and the constant pressure of public scrutiny weighing heavily on her mind. Prince William found her there 20 minutes later, sitting on their favorite bench overlooking the rose garden. He carried 2 steaming cups of tea, a small gesture that had become their morning ritual whenever their schedules allowed them to be at Windsor together. The castle staff had learned not to disturb these precious moments, understanding that even royalty needed time to simply be human. "The children are asking if they can skip their tutoring session today," William said, settling beside his wife. "George specifically mentioned wanting to help with the charity football match this afternoon instead of studying mathematics." Catherine smiled, the first genuine expression of joy she had shown in days. Their eldest son had inherited his father's passion for football and his mother's desire to help others. The weekend was meant to be a blend of official duties and family time, something they had fought hard to achieve despite the royal household's initial resistance to such an informal approach. The charity football match was Prince William's personal initiative, designed to raise funds for homeless youth while giving him a chance to play the sport he loved. What the public didn't know was that he had been secretly training with a local amateur team for months, often sneaking out of Kensington Palace in disguise to join their evening practice sessions. His security team had nearly suffered collective heart attacks the first few times, but they had gradually adapted to his unconventional approach to royal duties. As they walked back toward the castle, Catherine's phone buzzed with a message from her private secretary. The afternoon's event had attracted far more media attention than anticipated, with several international news outlets requesting exclusive interviews. The couple exchanged a knowing look. Their attempt at a relaxed weekend was already showing signs of the familiar royal circus that followed their every move. Inside the castle, their 3 children were finishing breakfast under the watchful eye of their nanny. Princess Charlotte had insisted on wearing her football kit in solidarity with her father's match, while Prince Louis had decorated his face with temporary tattoos of footballs and crowns. The sight of their children's excitement reminded William and Catherine why they had chosen to make this weekend as normal as possible. The morning briefing with their communications team revealed the delicate balance they would need to maintain throughout the weekend. The charity match was generating positive publicity, but there were concerns about the informal nature of the event potentially undermining the dignity of the royal family. William's jaw tightened as he listened to the familiar arguments about protocol and tradition, while Catherine placed a supportive hand on his arm. "We're not changing the plan," William stated firmly. "This is exactly the kind of engagement that shows the monarchy can be relevant and connected to people's real lives." The communications director shuffled his papers nervously. "Sir, there are concerns from the palace about the precedent this sets. Playing football with members of the public, potentially getting muddy or injured." Catherine spoke up before her husband could respond, her voice carrying the quiet authority she had developed over years of royal service. "The precedent we're setting is that we care about the causes we support enough to participate personally, not just show up and cut ribbons." As the morning progressed, the castle filled with activity. Catering staff prepared refreshments for the hundreds of guests expected at the charity event, while security teams conducted final sweeps of the football ground. The seamless coordination required for any royal event was impressive to observe, though William and Catherine had long since learned to tune out the controlled chaos that surrounded their public appearances. Their children joined them for a private lunch in their apartments, a rare opportunity for the family to eat together without the formality of state dining rooms or the presence of household staff. Charlotte peppered her parents with questions about the afternoon's match, while Louis practiced his football skills with a soft ball in the drawing room, much to the horror of the antique furniture. The conversation turned to more serious matters when George asked why there were so many homeless young people in London. William and Catherine had always been honest with their children about the causes they supported, believing that understanding social issues was part of preparing them for their future roles. Their explanation was age-appropriate, but didn't shy away from the harsh realities of poverty and family breakdown. As they prepared to leave for the football ground, Catherine caught a glimpse of herself in one of the castle's ornate mirrors. She had chosen casual clothing appropriate for standing on the sidelines of a football match, but even her most relaxed outfit had been carefully selected by her styling team to photograph well and send the right message about accessibility and relatability. The drive to the football ground took them through some of London's most disadvantaged neighborhoods, areas that rarely saw royal visits. William had specifically chosen this location for the charity match, wanting to bring attention and resources to communities that were often overlooked. As their convoy passed through the streets, small groups of people gathered on corners to wave, their faces lighting up with surprise and delight at the unexpected royal sighting. The football ground itself had been transformed for the occasion. What was normally a modest community facility now hosted a small army of security personnel, media representatives, and charity volunteers. The organizers had worked tirelessly to maintain the grassroots feel of the event while accommodating the security requirements that came with royal participation. William's teammates for the charity match were a mix of professional footballers, celebrities, and young people who had been helped by the homeless charity. As he changed into his football kit in the modest changing room facilities, he reflected on how different this felt from his usual royal engagements. Here, he would succeed or fail based on his ability to play football, not his ability to make small talk or cut ribbons with appropriate ceremony. Catherine positioned herself among the crowd of spectators, having politely declined the VIP area that had been prepared for her. She wanted to experience the match as any other supporter would, though her security detail's nervous energy was palpable as they tried to blend into the crowd while maintaining protective positions around her. The whistle blew to start the match, and for the next hour, Prince William was simply another player on the field. He tackled, passed, and ran with the same intensity he had shown during his school and university football career. When he scored the opening goal, his celebration was spontaneous and joyful, a far cry from the composed public persona he usually maintained. The crowd's reaction was electric, but not just because of the goal. Seeing their future king completely absorbed in the game, his shirt muddy and his hair disheveled, created a connection that formal royal appearances rarely achieved. Catherine found herself cheering alongside strangers, caught up in the genuine excitement of the moment. As the match continued, the cameras captured moments that royal photographers rarely had the opportunity to document. William arguing with the referee over a questionable call, laughing as he helped an opponent to his feet after a tackle, and the pure concentration on his face as he prepared to take a penalty kick. These were glimpses of a person rather than a position, humanity rather than hierarchy. The afternoon sun was beginning to set as the final whistle blew, with William's team winning by a narrow margin. As he shook hands with his opponents and teammates, his genuine exhaustion and satisfaction were evident. This had been more than a photo opportunity or charitable gesture. It had been a chance to do something he genuinely loved while supporting a cause close to his heart. Catherine made her way onto the field as the formal presentations began, but not before she had spoken with several of the young people who had benefited from the charity's work. Their stories were both heartbreaking and inspiring, reminders of why she and William had chosen to focus their charitable efforts on supporting vulnerable youth and families. The presentation ceremony was deliberately brief, with William using his speech to highlight the work of the charity rather than dwelling on the match itself. As he spoke about the importance of giving young people hope and opportunity, his passion for the cause was unmistakable. This wasn't royal duty speaking. This was personal conviction. As they prepared to leave the football ground, a small group of local children approached with handmade gifts and drawings. Catherine knelt to their level to receive each offering personally, while William signed football shirts and posed for selfies. These unscheduled interactions were exactly what their security team dreaded, but what made the royal couple feel their work had genuine meaning. The drive back to Windsor Castle gave them their first opportunity to decompress from the afternoon's excitement. William's football kit was grass-stained and dirty, while Catherine's carefully chosen casual outfit had somehow remained pristine despite her enthusiastic support from the sidelines. They compared notes on the conversations they had had with charity beneficiaries and supporters, already planning follow-up actions and future initiatives. Back at the castle, their children were waiting with 1,000 questions about the match. Charlotte wanted to know if her father had been nervous before scoring his goal, while Louis was more interested in whether anyone had gotten hurt during the tackling. George, ever the serious eldest child, asked thoughtful questions about the charity and whether their family could do more to help homeless young people. The evening concluded with a private dinner in their apartments, a stark contrast to the day's public activities. As they helped their children with bedtime routines and read stories in the comfortable chaos of family life, the afternoon's events felt almost surreal. The transition from public figures to parents was one they had learned to navigate, but it never ceased to amaze them how quickly they could shift between these different versions of themselves. As William and Catherine finally had a moment alone together late that evening, they reflected on the day's successes and challenges. The charity match had raised significant funds and awareness, but more importantly, it had demonstrated their commitment to being accessible and engaged members of the royal family. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but tonight they were simply a couple who had spent their day doing something they believed in, surrounded by people they cared about. The first day of their royal weekend had set the tone for everything that would follow, establishing themes of authenticity, service, and the delicate balance between public duty and personal conviction that would define their approach to the monarchy for years to come. Sunday morning arrived with an unexpected challenge that would test the royal couple's ability to adapt their carefully planned weekend. Catherine woke to find Prince Louis running a fever, his usual boundless energy replaced by the listless demeanor that every parent recognizes as the beginning of childhood illness. The day's schedule included a visit to a children's hospital and an environmental conservation project, both causes deeply important to them. But the sick child took immediate priority. William found his wife in Louis's bedroom, her maternal instincts overriding any consideration of royal obligations. She had already called their family physician and was gently coaxing their youngest son to drink small sips of water. The sight reminded William of why he had fallen in love with Catherine, her ability to prioritize what truly mattered, regardless of external pressures. "We need to cancel the hospital visit," Catherine said without looking up from Louis's bedside. "I can't in good conscience visit sick children when our own might be contagious with something." The decision created an immediate flurry of activity among their household staff. Private secretaries began making apologetic phone calls to hospital administrators, while security teams adjusted their plans for the day. The media, who had been expecting the hospital visit, would need to be informed of the change without revealing too much detail about the family's private medical concerns. George and Charlotte, initially excited about accompanying their parents to the hospital, took the news of the canceled visit with remarkable maturity. Charlotte, ever the caring sister, appointed herself as Louis's entertainment committee, setting up a fort of pillows and blankets in his room. George fetched his favorite books, insisting that stories would help his little brother feel better. The environmental project at Richmond Park proceeded as planned, though now only William would attend while Catherine remained at Windsor with the children. As he prepared to leave alone, the couple shared a moment of understanding about the sacrifices their roles sometimes demanded. Family always came first, but their public commitments couldn't always be abandoned without disappointing people who had been looking forward to meeting them. William's arrival at Richmond Park revealed a conservation initiative that was much more hands-on than his usual environmental engagements. Volunteers from local schools and community groups were participating in a large-scale tree planting project designed to create new habitats for endangered bird species. The sight of dozens of children and adults working together in the mud reminded him why environmental causes had become such a central part of his royal mission. The project coordinator, a passionate conservationist named Dr. Sarah Mitchell, had specifically requested that the royal visit be a working session rather than a ceremonial observation. William found himself paired with a group of 10-year-old students from a nearby primary school, their enthusiasm infectious as they competed to see who could plant the most saplings correctly. "Your Royal Highness, why do trees matter so much?" asked Emma, a precocious girl with soil-stained hands and bright, curious eyes. William knelt beside her newly planted oak sapling, considering how to explain complex environmental concepts to someone so young. "Trees are like the Earth's lungs," he said simply. "They clean the air we breathe and provide homes for animals. When we plant them, we're making sure there will be fresh air and beautiful places for your children to enjoy someday." The conversation that followed revealed the depth of environmental awareness among the younger generation. These children understood climate change, habitat destruction, and conservation in ways that would have been impossible for their parents' generation at the same age. Their questions challenged William to think beyond traditional royal environmental initiatives toward more innovative and youth-driven approaches. As the morning progressed, William's formal clothes became increasingly muddy and his hands genuinely dirty from the planting work. His security team watched nervously as he climbed over fallen logs and knelt in wet soil, but his engagement with the project was clearly genuine rather than performative. When a photographer captured him wiping sweat from his brow with a muddy hand, leaving a streak of earth across his face, the image would later become one of the most shared photos of his royal career. Meanwhile, back at Windsor Castle, Catherine was discovering that a sick child could provide unexpected opportunities for family bonding. With Louis feeling slightly better by midday, all three children had gathered in the morning room for what Charlotte announced as the world's most important tea party. Catherine found herself playing elaborate games involving stuffed animals, royal protocols, and imaginary diplomatic crises that somehow always resolved with cake and giggles. The afternoon brought a video call with William, who updated the family on his tree-planting adventures from his car during the drive back to Windsor. Louis, perched on Catherine's lap and looking considerably brighter, wanted to know if his father had seen any squirrels or birds during the conservation work. The conversation provided a moment of normalcy that grounded them all after the morning's disruptions. William's return to the castle coincided with an unexpected visit from his grandmother's former lady-in-waiting, Lady Margaret Thornton, who had requested a private meeting to discuss a sensitive matter regarding royal historical documents. At 91, Lady Margaret represented a direct link to previous generations of the royal family, and her insights into protocol and tradition were invaluable during moments of institutional change. The conversation that followed in William's private study revealed the ongoing tension between preserving royal traditions and adapting the monarchy for modern relevance. Lady Margaret expressed concern about the informal nature of recent royal engagements, particularly the previous day's football match, while acknowledging the positive public response these innovations had generated. "Your grandmother understood the importance of evolution," Lady Margaret said carefully, "but she also knew that change must be gradual to maintain the institution's stability. The public may enjoy seeing you play football, but they also need to respect the crown's dignity." William listened respectfully to her concerns while defending his approach to royal service. The challenge of balancing innovation with tradition was something he grappled with daily, knowing that the monarchy's future relevance depended on its ability to connect with contemporary society while maintaining its historical significance. Catherine joined the conversation after settling the children with their evening activities, bringing her own perspective on the modernization of royal roles. Her transformation from a commoner to a working member of the royal family had given her unique insights into public expectations and the reality of royal service. "People don't want us to be untouchable," Catherine observed. "They want to see that we genuinely care about the same things they do, that we're willing to get our hands dirty for causes that matter. Yesterday's football match raised more money for homeless youth than a dozen traditional charity galas would have managed." The discussion continued over dinner, with Lady Margaret sharing stories of how previous generations had navigated similar challenges of public service and personal authenticity. Her tales of royal life during wartime and social upheaval provided context for the current era's unique pressures and opportunities. As evening approached, the family gathered in the music room where Charlotte had been practicing piano. Her performance of a simple classical piece provided a soundtrack for reflection on the weekend's events. The contrast between the public activities and these private family moments highlighted the complex reality of royal life, where personal and public spheres constantly intersected. William and Catherine spent the later evening reviewing correspondence from the weekend's events. Thank you messages from the homeless charity, conservation project updates, and requests for similar future engagements filled their tablets and laptops. Each communication represented real people whose lives had been touched, however briefly, by their royal involvement. The administrative side of royal service was less glamorous than public appearances, but equally important. Every engagement generated follow-up actions, from thank you notes to policy discussions to funding considerations. The couple had learned to view this paperwork not as bureaucratic burden, but as evidence of their impact and opportunities for deeper involvement. A late phone call from the hospital they had been scheduled to visit brought unexpected good news. The staff understood completely about the cancellation due to family illness and had rescheduled the visit for the following month. More importantly, the publicity from the weekend's other activities had inspired several major donors to contribute significantly to the hospital's new children's wing. As they prepared for bed, William and Catherine reflected on how the day's challenges had ultimately strengthened both their family relationships and their public service goals. Louis's illness had reminded them of their priorities, while the conservation project had demonstrated the power of hands-on royal engagement. Lady Margaret's visit had provided valuable perspective on balancing tradition with innovation. The weekend had evolved far from their original plans, but the adaptations had created opportunities for authentic connections and meaningful conversations that wouldn't have been possible in a more rigidly structured schedule. They were learning that the most effective royal service often happened in the spaces between formal protocols. Looking ahead to the final day of their weekend, they anticipated new challenges and opportunities. The flexibility they had shown in adapting to Louis's illness and the success of William's environmental engagement had given them confidence in their approach to modernizing royal service while honoring its traditions. The balance between public duty and family life would always require careful navigation, but weekends like this one proved that authenticity and genuine service could coexist with royal protocol when approached with wisdom and courage. Their children were learning by example that service to others was not a burden but a privilege, one that could bring joy and meaning when approached with the right attitude. The second day of their royal weekend had demonstrated that adaptability, family values, and genuine engagement were not obstacles to effective royal service, but rather its essential foundations. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities to put these principles into practice. Monday morning brought with it the bittersweet realization that the royal weekend was drawing to a close. Prince Louis had recovered enough to join his siblings for breakfast, his fever broken, and his appetite returned. The sight of all three children together again, chattering excitedly about their various weekend adventures, filled William and Catherine with the particular satisfaction that comes from successfully navigating family challenges while maintaining their public commitments. The final day's schedule included a visit to a local primary school that had won a national competition for their innovative approach to teaching environmental science. The school had specifically requested that the royal visit be educational rather than ceremonial, asking William and Catherine to participate in lessons and interact directly with students rather than simply touring facilities and meeting administrators. As they prepared for the school visit, Catherine received an unexpected phone call from the head teacher, Mrs. Jennifer Collins, who had a special request that would test the royal couple's commitment to authentic engagement. One of the students, 8-year-old Marcus, had been dealing with the recent death of his grandfather and had specifically asked if he could share his environmental science project with the princess, believing that his grandfather's memory could live on through conservation work. The request touched Catherine deeply, reminding her of the profound responsibility that came with their public roles. Every interaction had the potential to create lasting memories for the people they met, particularly children who saw royal visits as magical occasions that could transform ordinary days into extraordinary experiences. William and Catherine arrived at Greenfield Primary School to find the playground buzzing with excitement that was barely contained by the teachers' efforts to maintain normal routine. The children had been preparing for weeks, not just cleaning and decorating their classrooms, but genuinely enhancing their environmental science projects in hopes of impressing their royal visitors. The first lesson they attended was a Year 4 class studying rainforest ecosystems. The teacher, Mr. David Rahman, had created an immersive experience where students role-played as different rainforest creatures while learning about interdependence and habitat conservation. William found himself assigned the role of a jaguar, while Catherine became a toucan, leading to genuinely educational moments disguised as play. The children's knowledge was impressive and their questions challenging. They wanted to know why adults were cutting down rainforests if they knew it was harmful, whether the royal family owned any rainforest land that could be protected, and what they personally could do to help endangered species from their London suburb. Catherine's conversation with young Marcus came during a quiet moment between lessons. His project on urban wildlife corridors was sophisticated beyond his years, inspired by his grandfather's work as a city planner who had championed green spaces in urban development. As Marcus explained his ideas for connecting London's parks to help wildlife move safely through the city, his passion for his grandfather's legacy was evident. "My granddad always said that cities could be homes for animals too, not just people," Marcus explained earnestly. "He taught me that even small gardens and window boxes can be part of helping nature." The conversation that followed was one of the most meaningful of the weekend for Catherine. Marcus's understanding of environmental issues was deeply personal, connected to family memory and genuine concern for the world he was inheriting. When she asked what he hoped to do when he grew up, his answer was immediate. "I want to design cities that are good homes for people and animals, just like my granddad did." Meanwhile, William was engaged in a hands-on science experiment with Year 6 students investigating water pollution and filtration systems. The lesson involved creating miniature water treatment plants using everyday materials, demonstrating how natural systems could be replicated to solve environmental problems. His genuine fascination with the scientific process was evident as he worked alongside the students, occasionally forgetting his royal status in the excitement of discovery. The most powerful moment of the school visit came during the assembly where students presented their environmental projects to their royal visitors. Each presentation revealed the depth of environmental awareness among the younger generation and their frustration with inherited environmental problems. These children understood climate change, pollution, and conservation challenges with a sophistication that impressed and sobered their adult audience. One particularly moving presentation came from a group of Year 5 students who had created a plan for reducing their school's carbon footprint. Their research had included interviewing family members about lifestyle changes, calculating the environmental impact of different transportation choices, and developing practical solutions for energy conservation. Their teacher later confided that the royal visit had motivated unprecedented engagement with environmental topics across all year groups. During lunch in the school hall, William and Catherine ate the same meals as the students, sitting at the small tables and chairs designed for children much smaller than themselves. The informal setting created opportunities for conversations that would have been impossible in more formal environments. Students asked about their children, their favorite foods, and whether being royal was fun or scary. The honesty of children's questions provided refreshing contrast to the careful diplomacy of most adult interactions with royalty. When one bold 7-year-old asked Catherine if she ever got tired of wearing fancy dresses, her laugh was genuine and her answer honest. "Sometimes I do prefer comfortable clothes, especially when I'm playing with my children or working in the garden." The afternoon's activities included a tree planting ceremony in the school's garden, where each class had adopted a different native species to plant and care for throughout the coming years. William and Catherine participated alongside the students, their weekend's theme of hands-on environmental action continuing in this educational setting. As they worked in the soil alongside excited children, both William and Catherine reflected on how different this royal engagement felt from traditional school visits. Rather than walking through displays and listening to prepared presentations, they were genuinely learning and participating in the educational process. The children's knowledge and passion were educating them as much as they were contributing to the students' experience. The final presentation of the day came from the school's Eco Council, a student-led group that had researched ways their community could contribute to national environmental goals. Their proposals included everything from expanded recycling programs to rooftop gardens to partnerships with local wildlife organizations. The sophistication of their thinking and the practicality of their suggestions impressed the royal visitors and demonstrated the potential for youth leadership in environmental action. As the school visit concluded, William and Catherine participated in a tree planting ceremony that would serve as a permanent reminder of their visit. The oak tree they planted together would grow alongside the students, creating a living symbol of their shared commitment to environmental stewardship and educational excellence. The drive back to Windsor Castle provided time for reflection on the weekend's events and their implications for future royal service. The 3 days had demonstrated the power of authentic engagement, the importance of family priorities, and the potential for meaningful connections when royal protocol was balanced with genuine human interaction. Their children were waiting at the castle with homework assignments that had been inspired by their parents' weekend activities. Charlotte had written a story about a princess who played football to help homeless people, while George had researched conservation projects they could implement in their own gardens. Even Louis had drawn pictures of trees and animals, his artistic interpretation of the environmental themes that had dominated the weekend. The evening concluded with a family discussion about the weekend's lessons and future plans. The children's questions and observations provided insights into how their parents' public service was shaping their own understanding of responsibility and service. Catherine and William realized that their approach to royal duties was not just modeling public service for the nation, but also teaching their children about leadership, empathy, and authentic engagement. As they reviewed correspondence from the weekend's events, messages of thanks and requests for follow-up engagements filled their tablets. The homeless charity reported unprecedented donations following the football match. The conservation project had inspired similar initiatives in other communities, and the school had received numerous inquiries about their environmental science program. The administrative follow-up to royal engagements often revealed their true impact beyond the immediate public attention and media coverage. Policy discussions, funding opportunities, and partnership possibilities emerged from authentic engagement in ways that traditional ceremonial visits rarely achieved. Late that evening, as Windsor Castle settled into nighttime quiet, William and Catherine reflected on how their weekend experiment in authentic royal service had exceeded their expectations. The combination of personal passion, family values, and genuine public engagement had created connections and opportunities that would continue long after the media attention faded. The weekend had demonstrated that effective modern royal service required courage to break from traditional approaches, wisdom to balance innovation with institutional respect, and authentic commitment to the causes they championed. Most importantly, it had shown that bringing their whole selves to public service, including their roles as parents and their personal passions, enhanced rather than diminished their effectiveness as working royals. As they prepared for the return to their normal schedules, both William and Catherine carried with them renewed confidence in their approach to royal service and excitement about future opportunities to serve in ways that felt authentic and meaningful. The weekend had been more than successful public engagements. It had been a blueprint for the kind of monarchy they wanted to help create for future generations. Their final conversation of the weekend focused not on what they had accomplished, but on what they had learned, both about effective service and about themselves as a family, navigating the unique challenges and opportunities of royal life in the modern world. The lessons would inform their approach to royal service for years to come, ensuring that their commitment to authentic engagement would continue to evolve and deepen with experience.